it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 593rd edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Nancy Wolf. By golly. Nancy is one of the directors of the Brattleboro Community Television and has an interesting background and is knowledgeable about many of the things that we talk about. So she volunteered, and I was really happy. Anyway, we are recording this on the 3rd of October, which means that the news is starting on Thursday, September 26th, and will continue through Wednesday, the 2nd of October. And if you want to get a file that tells you everything that's going on in this, that we will be talking about, and has links to the original articles along with pictures and so forth, you can go to a link which is down on the, this is so weird to say, down below, if you happen to have a computer. If you don't, you're out of luck. But you can go to my blog that I keep every day, and use the calendar to find the date. So we are going to start. Do I need to say anything more? More about you?
Oh,
no.
Should I just say?
If you say whatever you want.
I'm a local documentary filmmaker, and I've been working for a long time on a documentary about nuclear weapons grade waste, and which
there will be more of if we build small modular reactors.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
It's got me really upset. And I'm sorry, I broke in on you.
No. It's focused mainly on the Rocky Flats plant just outside Denver. And it's about these communities of people that are around these sites and how they're impacted and what they can do.
You're making me very sad.
I mean, that tends to be what happens when I'm really fun at parties, you know?
Okay, you've got a saving grace. Okay, let's get going.
Yeah.
Our first item, there we go. Our first item is from Renews, and we have a picture of wind turbines. And the title for this is New Standard for Measuring Offshore Project Emissions. A first-of-a-kind methodology to standardize how carbon footprint of an offshore wind farm is measured was published by the Offshore Wind Sustainability Joint Industry Program. I don't know that anybody could understand that, but it's a lot of words. The Carbon Trust collaborated with 12 program partners to devise the methodology. These machines have a carbon footprint as they run for a variety. It's not very big, but there's also a carbon footprint associated with putting them in and so forth. And so they're keeping track of that.
That's a good thing. They're keeping track of it.
Yeah.
Someone's keeping track of it.
Someone is keeping track of it.
And it's them. And it's the company. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And of course, people who don't like them, and there's a lot of people who don't, would like to have their own way to do this. But the methodology is there, and you can find it. And it seeks to understand emissions from other offshore things and compare them in addition. So that's something to bear in mind. Should we go on?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
have a nice picture of a Volvo electric truck. And I'm going to cut to this so people can see it.
Yeah.
This is an item from Clean Technica. California adopts nation's first deadlines for utilities to connect EV chargers to the grid. The California Public Utilities Commission approved a set of timelines to accelerate grid connections of new residential buildings, commercial sites, and EV charging stations. The decision implements the Powering Up California's Act of 2023. And this is interesting because there are a lot of states that follow the California law.
Yes.
You nod like you know.
Absolutely. I've been just the gas prices, just because what you're paying for is you're paying for all these regulations when their gas is $2 or $3 more than what we pay here in Vermont. So all of those regulations are higher taxes, higher costs. All of those things are because there's more regulation. And like when you buy products on Amazon or wherever, there's it says prop, this proposal, this and that for Californians, nobody else, just Californians, because that's where these laws are being just tested and tried and pushed. And then, so if California, maybe somewhere else.
Vermont follows California in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, the prices of gasoline here are lower than they are in California, but we should go on unless you've got more.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, our next picture is a wind farm with sheep, and this is from Energy Live News. Octopus to invest £2 billion in UK renewables by 2030. Octopus Energy has announced a £2 billion, which is 2,620 million investment in UK renewable energy projects by 2030. The investment will fund new solar farms and battery storage. The company has agreed on deals for 4 new solar farms in Bristol, Essex, East Riding of Yorkshire, and Wiltshire.
Beautiful.
One of the things that's important about this is Octopus is doing this. It got reported here. But Octopus isn't the only investor. And, I don't know who's investing in Cornwall, but I know a lot of people are. And, there's a lot going on there. And, I was thinking about this too. I used to live in Devon. And Devon, like Ireland and other places, or I should say parts of Ireland, is hedgerow country.
Yeah.
Like Normandy and so forth. But it is hedgerow country. And I remember coming to a stile with a farmer who owned it. And I said, how old is that? And he said, I don't know, probably goes back maybe to Roman times.
Right.
It was just elongated stones that stuck out of the
I have been to these ancient Roman ruins in southern England, in Newcastle upon Tyne.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was there once with my physics, my AP physics professor lives there.
Yes.
Okay, and I was visiting him, and he took me on his motorcycle all around these ancient Roman ruins, and I was in heaven.
Yeah.
It was so fascinating and exhilarating and exciting.
It was.
So,
I said to him, is this the only way you can get into that field? And he said, yes. There was no gate. The hedgerow was a mound of earth that was probably 5 feet tall, with a hedge maybe 5 feet tall on top of it, around an area, and the only way in was on the stile. And I said, how do the sheep get in? And he said, you carry them. Now, you build a solar array in one of those things, you'd have to be in an airplane to see it. It was just something that popped into my mind. Anyway, we are falling behind. Okay, The next picture is a solar array on a roof. And there we go. We are up to Friday, September 27th. This is from PV Magazine International. The title is Italy deploys 4.2 gigawatts of solar in January through August. Italy added around 5 gigawatts of renewable capacity, of which 4.2 gigawatts was solar power in the first 8 months of 2024, according to an Italian news agency whose name I will not pronounce. This means Italy's cumulative PV capacity reached 34.48 gigawatts at the end of August. Now, if you think about it, they put a seventh of all of the renewable energy that they've got in the country in 8 months. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah. And they might, they could do that again.
That's also a lot of jobs too. It's also a lot of workers. That's also a lot of.
It's a lot going on. And this is also the fact that we've got workers involved and so forth is something that I don't know. I'm finding people that I communicate with, some of them are upset about the amount of money that Joe Biden has spent in acts like the Inflation Reduction Act and so forth. And they talk about the fact that he has run up national debt so much. And I say, wait a minute.
Nobody cares about national debt.
He ran up the national debt half of the amount that Donald Trump did.
Exactly. If we cared so much about national debt, then we would care 4 years ago.
Yeah, and one of the things that he did was as a result of things like that, hundreds of thousands of people were employed.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit more complicated than just saying he took a bunch of money and threw it out the window.
No, not a window. Fixing, if you just see the public works in our town, things getting fixed. Like you can see the infrastructure improving.
Yep.
That's a positive.
There
positive
are
thing.
many positives in this, and it's a good thing to keep track of them. Okay, the next picture is another solar farm, of course, and this is from PV Magazine USA. The title is Solar Levelized Cost of Electricity 56% lower than low-cost fossil fuels. Solar has taken center stage in global energy development as costs have fallen to record lows. IRENA, IRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Agency, reported data through 2023, noting that solar levelized cost of electricity had fallen 90% since 2010. 90% is a good amount to fall.
Yeah, I like that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And what nuclear has increased,
do you know about Wright's Law?
Wright's Law.
You don't know about Wright's Law. No. I'm sure that I know people who majored in economics in college who never heard of Wright's Law. It is a standard law of economics, which is very often not taught in colleges. It was discovered in 1937 by a man whose name was Wright and who happened to be working at the time for Curtiss Wright. but Wright's Law is very often talked about as the learning curve. And what it says is the more of these things you produce, the better you're going to be at doing it. The better they're going to be, the lower the price goes. And one of the things that I remember reading about Wright's Law, and a person commented on it, and he said, we talk about Wright's Law for solar, we talk about Wright's Law for batteries, we talk about Wright's Law for wind power. Why don't we talk about Wright's Law for nuclear? Well, Wright's Law is something that is established based on experience. And the experience that we have for nuclear is that the cost always goes up.
Yeah. Very expensive. Very
So
expensive technology.
Wright's law says the cost of nuclear is going to continue going up. And anyway, there we are. Should I go on?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. We have an item from Renewables Now and a picture of wind turbines. There we go. Renewable energy sources now provide over 30% of U.S. generating capacity. When did that happen? A Sunday campaign review of data in 2 new reports by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and the U.S. Energy Information Administration reveals that now over 30% of total U.S. utility scale electrical generating capacity is renewable. And the fact that they're talking about utility scale is important here, because when utility scale solar is installed, and then you look at the total amount of solar power that's been installed over the course of the year, utility scale is only about 60% of it. So this 30% doesn't include the rest, which is community solar.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Rooftop,
yeah, community solar, all of those
different things.
Different alternatives. Yes. Yes, and exactly, and that's.
And it used to be the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Oh no, it was the Energy Information Administration. When they looked at solar power, they never included solar power unless it was in an array of 5 megawatts or more, which meant that about 99% of the arrays that were built were not included in their calculations. Anyway, they're doing a little bit better, and things are,
increasing in the small little bits, but increasing.
Yeah.
Increasing.
Yeah, things are increasing. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one.
Yep.
Now let's see what we've got here. There we go. Solar array, solar panels. And I don't know where that picture is. By the way, we're up to Saturday, September 28th. This is from Renews. The title is Octopus Backs U.S. Solar Duo. We were talking about Octopus just a moment ago. Octopus, I believe, is a UK firm. So they've invaded the United States. Octopus Energy made 2 investments in the U.S. energy market, with the company backing developers Sercal and Zestec to create projects. The company said it marks the next move in its $2 billion plan for America's renewables revolution. That's another $2 billion plan. It comes just 3 months after it made its first green energy investments stateside. So,
It's a beaut.
There's an incredible amount of money here.
Yeah.
And there's incredible amount of money to be made.
Yep.
And there is an item, I think it's in this week's news. It's the next item, in fact. No, it isn't the next item.
I know which item you're talking about, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's about the investment in 2023 in renewable energy, and what part of that was in China. Why isn't the United States doing anything? I will tell you.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a reason for, there is a reason. Okay, let's, we just talked about Renews. Let's go to the next one, which is BYD Song. If you look at the license plate of this car, it's interesting because there's a Chinese character and then the letter L.
Yeah.
And this car is called a Song L.
Yeah.
They use a lot of characters in Chinese. This is from Clean Technica. It is titled, Most Car Sales, 54% in China are now plug-ins. Can you imagine that?
That's incredible.
The
infrastructure that needs that's incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah, but it's just a reflection of a whole bunch of things that are going on in China.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we expanded our infrastructure and market and so forth the way the Chinese had, it would probably employ 3 million people at least.
Right. Yep.
Okay, plug-in vehicles scored a little more than 1 million sales in a 1.9 million unit overall market in August. That's up 38% year over year and the second best month ever, while the overall market is down 1%. How do you explain that except to say pure gasoline-driven cars are just falling off a cliff?
Yep.
Battery EVs were up 19% in August, and plug-in hybrids were up 78%.
My God.
So the gasoline-driven cars are just not being purchased anymore.
No.
And I don't know how to talk about this except, well, we will get more into China later on. You have anything more on this?
On this, no, just it's no.
Okay.
Nope.
Let's look at our next picture.
Yeah.
We have a picture of an offshore wind farm. And whoops, there we go. Offshore wind turbines. This is from Renews. High speed, this is the title, high wind speeds boost UK renewables output. UK renewable generation increased by 19% year on year in the second quarter of 2024 to 32.8 terawatt hours. I can't imagine a terawatt hour, but
Yeah.
it's about, a terawatt hour is about Vermont's use of electricity in 2 months. Okay, largely due to favorable wind conditions. Renewable resources accounted for a record 51.6% share of electricity mix during the period, according to government figures. Now, in the United States, we have 30%. And if you list off the countries that are doing almost 100%, it's embarrassing. You know,
Yes.
Norway, Iceland, Albania.
Lithuania.
Really?
I read in one of the. Oh, I think maybe that's for next week. But I read in one of your in one of today's.
I don't remember, but Nepal, Bhutan,
Latvia. It was about Latvia.
a couple of countries in Africa, and I know that Ethiopia was. Think about it. Ethiopia's getting almost all of its electricity, all of its energy from electricity. They banned importation of gasoline-powered cars in Ethiopia and Paraguay. Who would think that Paraguay was a country like that? Anyway, one thing that I can tell you is that coal-fired power ceased in the UK with the closing of the last plant. This week. I didn't put it in this week's show because it was in last week's show that they were going to do it, but it did. Okay, we're up to Sunday, September 29th, and we have a picture of a solar array. And this story is from Wired. Always like stories from Wired.
Yeah.
It makes me feel kind of avant-garde.
Of the. There. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice graphics.
The title is These Record-Breaking New Solar Panels Produce 60% More Electricity. This is a big part of the learning curve. Commercially available solar panels convert 20 to 22% of sunlight into electric power. However, research published in Nature has shown that future solar panels could reach efficiencies as high as 34%. Now we're comparing 21% with 34%. By exploiting a technology called tandem solar cells. And tandem solar cells, you have a regular solar cell, and then you have a back cell on that. And solar cells, some of them, allow a surprising amount of light through. So you've basically got two cells in the same place. So that is that. I'm going to go on to the next item. The next one is from Clean Technica, and we have a picture here of electric buses in Montevideo. BYD, by the way, I'll bring it up. 100 electric buses for Uruguay, thanks to BYD. Well, we're back to China with BYD. The initials mean build your dreams. They took an English language term for their name, but it's a Chinese company based in Shenzhen, which is the next city north of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And they started making buses quite a while ago. Okay, let me read the synopsis. BYD, which means build your dreams, continues to help electrify the world. We have news this week that BYD has delivered 100 electric buses to CUTCSA, the largest transit operation in Uruguay. In South America, BYD has already delivered electric buses in Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Ecuador. And a couple of years ago, I remember coming across a story that Bloomberg had done an inventory of electric buses in the United States. And I don't remember the exact number, but it was less than 700.
Right.
And I'm going to say it was 650. It was close to 650. A couple of months later, I came across a story that Bogota, city in Colombia, had just put in a single order for 702 electric buses. And they were confident about that order because they had already bought and had used 700 electric buses. So a single Latin American city had more electric buses than the United States did. Why is that?
And where are these? And also thinking about where these electric buses are in the United States. I know I've ridden on plenty of them in New York City.
Well, yeah.
Right, but where are they all over? Are there any rural areas? Are there any?
There are a very few. Yeah. But unfortunately, one of our best electric bus manufacturers went broke. And, this happened, this electric bus explosion, if you will, happened at just the moment that Donald Trump took the White House. During the Obama administration in the last year, there was a slight increase in electric buses worldwide, but nobody had really noticed it because it was just something that had happened that year. While Donald Trump was in the White House, there was basically no increase in the output of electric buses in the United States. And this is a story that's repeated for one technology after another.
Yeah.
The city of Shenzhen had 17,000 buses in it. And by the time Trump left the White House, all of them were electric. And on top of this, and think about this in terms of US jobs, the Chinese had taken the entire electric bus industry and they had convinced the world to buy electric buses to the point that over half of the buses sold were electric worldwide. The United States allowed China to take its jobs. For buses, for cars, with the exception of cars made by Tesla. And Tesla is not the biggest electric car manufacturer in the world. What is the biggest? You want to guess?
I do not know.
BYD.
BYD. That was your dream.
Okay, the Chinese took not first place in wind turbine manufacture, but they have a bunch of wind turbine manufacturers who are doing well.
Investment, buy-in, these are things.
They have a command economy, so they're putting their own money into building infrastructure for selling things to the rest of the world. I grew up. What was the life of a Chinese peasant? Wading in a rice paddy with a funny conical hat on, and all of a sudden they're acting like New Yorkers.
Well, I work with my collaborator. She's from Taiwan.
Okay.
And so, we talk about these things all the time. We have all these conversations about China because it's complicated with a lot of these other states that China claims to own, and the other side of that, of the people not wanting China to be owning them and wanting that difference. And so there's a lot of issues in all these sort of general areas. And Taiwan also makes the chips, right?
Yes.
So Taiwan also, so many Asian countries have really far developed their technology.
Yes, absolutely.
So incredibly far.
Absolutely. India is another one.
Yes.
And you see, I don't think India is quite as far along as China, but it's close.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next picture is a picture of a camel in Egypt. And this story is from the North African Post. Honestly, I don't know where the North African Post is published. I think it might be Morocco. The title of the story is Egypt, renewable energy to supply 42% of the energy mix by 2040. Egypt's goals have been to have renewable energy provide over 42% of Egypt's electric energy mix by 2040 were outlined during the BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, Energy Ministers Conference held in Moscow this week. If I were to hold a conference for renewable energy, it would not be in Moscow.
Yeah.
Actually, I wouldn't do anything in Moscow.
It's kind of rough there right now.
Foreigners who go to Russia, I'm told, are in danger of being conscripted and sent to the war.
Yeah.
Egypt also targets to capture 5 to 8% of the global green hydrogen market by the same year. I'm not sure about green hydrogen.
Yeah, I don't know.
I worry because billions of dollars have been invested in making green hydrogen, and there still isn't a market for it. So, I don't know. So should we go on?
Yeah.
Or do you have more about this?
No, I don't.
Good, because I don't like pictures of deserts. Okay, here we have a solar farm, and I have got myself in the wrong place. There we go. This is from Renews, and the title is Total Energies Starts 1.2 Gigawatt Texas PV Duo. Total Energies started commercial operations of its 720 megawatt Danish fields and 455 megawatt Cottonwood solar farms with battery storage in Texas. These new projects, with a combined capacity of 1.2 gigawatts, are part of a portfolio of renewable assets totaling 4 gigawatts in operation and under construction in Texas. And that solar farm, by the way, is Total Energies solar farm, which happens to be in Texas. So there you have it.
That's neat.
It is. And you know, I always try to mention this because many people don't understand gigawatts.
Just all you think about is Back to the Future. That's when I hear the word gigawatt, I think of one thing, and I think of Christopher Lloyd. That's what I think of.
Throwing things into the, yeah.
I want gigawatts. Yes.
1.2 gigawatts is a large nuclear plant, but 1.2 gigawatts nuclear is not the same as 1.2 gigawatts consisting of solar and battery, because the solar is going to output maybe a sixth of the energy that a nuclear plant will out of the same gigawatt, because the sun doesn't shine all the time. So solar plus battery, you've got advantages with the solar plus battery that you don't have with nuclear. You've got a lot of disadvantages for nuclear. And in fact, my position on nuclear is that we have no reason whatever to have nuclear. None. It is not good for anything. Have you thought about this? It is not possible to run a grid entirely on baseload power.
We talked about this, I remember.
Yeah.
Talked about this.
And the reason is base load is the minimum load that is going to be taken over a period of time. You have to have load following plants, peaker plants, all kinds of plants in addition to base load power. Just like with solar, you need to have other kinds of plants. And it turns out that those other kinds of plants are all covered by batteries. So if you have solar plus battery, but batteries provide better electricity than nuclear. And it's just that simple. The nuclear can't follow demand because it's baseload. The new nuclear stuff will be able to, but not as well as batteries. And batteries can follow demand so well that it will change to meet demand in less than one cycle of 60 cycle electricity. In the old days when we had baseload power all over the place, Joe would call up Max and he would say, Max, we need more electricity. You better get that other turbine fired up.
Yes.
And they made up the difference by adjusting the electricity that was on the grid. So they, at certain times, would increase or reduce the voltage. At other times, they would increase or reduce the rate of the cycle, which meant that your clock would be off. And if things got bad enough, you'd have a brownout and your refrigerator would die permanently. It was not good. Okay, we have to get on to the next item. This is a trimaran, which is a type of boat. It has three hulls, and it's from the French startup VELA. I'm going to pronounce that Vela. Serious money, $43 million behind 100% wind power for cargo ships. The cargo shipping industry is finally returning to wind power after a long hiatus. Isn't that amazing? Some maritime innovators even aim to bring back 100% wind power. One of them is the French startup Vela, which has just nailed a new $43 million round of funding to make it happen. What can you say? My Uncle Charlie, who was born in 1897, told me that one of his first jobs was taking care of, he would run up and down a train whenever it stopped and check the bearings for the wheels to make sure that he didn't have what was called a hot box. The train he was on had priority over everything, including passenger express trains, because it was moving silk from, I think, Seattle to New York City, and they wanted it to get there as fast as they could get it there. And I think he said, I might be wrong, that silk was brought from China on wind-powered ships.
Beautiful.
I might be wrong about that, but yeah. Okay. There are reasons why. I mean, there are certain things that you just don't need to put. You don't need to get across the ocean in 10 days. You can take 20. Okay, this is a floating solar system, and the article is from Clean Technica. It is titled "How Floating Solar is Carving Out Space in the Renewable Energy Landscape." The idea of setting solar panels out to float on top of reservoirs and other bodies of water seemed a bit exotic a few years ago, but there are circumstances when a floating solar array is practical, even as conventional renewable energy could be developed. And there are. So.
I mean, I can imagine, is this...
I'm going to put that up so people can see it.
I mean, are these, you know, a question I have really, I guess, is how what's the word? How adaptable this could be. Like, say, there's an emergency, flooding, these kinds of things where there's so much water and no electricity.
Right.
Would something like this be able to be deployed in emergency situations?
I don't think so.
No.
I might be wrong.
But that's what I think of when I think of something like this. I think of a disaster.
We've got
so
problems with floods in this country.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was writing an article about it today because I was writing about the cost of climate change and the costs and how they're developing. And I did a graph of year by year the cost of hurricanes. And in the 1990s, there was 1 year that was over $50 billion. In the 2000s, there were 3 years, and they added up to something over $400 billion. In the 2010s, there were 3 years, and they added up to something approaching $500 billion because the hurricanes were worse. In the 2020s, which are only half over, it already adds up to $500 billion. We might go to $1 trillion in the 2020s. And, you know, that's just one part of the thing. So I decided that I'd look at Cameron Parish, Louisiana. Cameron Parish, Louisiana is interesting because it had voters in 2020, 91% voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It was the highest percentage. And Donald Trump says that the oceans are rising at a rate of 1/4 of an inch in 400 and some odd years. The people in Cameron, the city, which is, I don't know what it is. It might have been a city or town. It isn't anymore. The people who lived in Cameron, which is the parish seat, have been moving out in such large numbers that there are fewer than 200 left. And the reason is because where Cameron used to be 5 feet above sea level, now it's 3 feet above sea level. And all of the people in southern Louisiana have to move out. They know it.
Yeah.
And that's from the conservative state government.
I mean, but that's something you have with, with the North Carolina, with the shore there. I mean, it's just people are trying to do everything, like adding little bits, trying to raise things up, but it
doesn't always work.
No, it's not always work, and it's not going to stop the thing from. It's just a little Band-Aid.
Yes.
Of a gigantic ocean.
I can't remember. I think it's Miami. It might be North Miami or something like that. They're putting check valves in the sewage systems and stuff. They're putting $500 million into preparation for problems that develop because of sea level rise. And they say that they think that their solutions will work until 2030. What are they going to do? And in some places in Florida, they can't even put in barriers because they're built on sandstone and the water just goes right through the sandstone. So it'll come up from underneath. Crazy. Anyway, we're up to Tuesday, October 1st, and here is a solar array in California in the desert. And I wonder how the animals deal with the fact that they've got partial shade here. This might actually benefit them.
Yeah, I know, that heat.
Yeah, this is from Clean Technica. California Climate and Energy Update. Significant work is still needed to build a just and sustainable California, but the recent progress made in every major sector is worth celebrating. California has the vision and leadership needed and the will of the state's residents on its side to create a livable future for all in the face of climate change.
That's what they're trying. That's what they're trying.
This business of a just and sustainable future. The word just is something that a lot of people choke on. And they fail to realize that if we don't all go into a future that works, it isn't going to work for any of us.
Yeah.
So those of us who are wealthy, I'm not, so it's easy for me to say this. Those of us who are wealthy have to help provide for those of us who are not, because otherwise, what happens to our futures? What happens?
It's kind of how this country was sort of.
What?
Well, I mean, that's, federalism. Sorry, I don't even have to bring federalism into this, but no, I mean, that's the whole idea. A lot of the ideas of this country were built on this idea that the rich would be supporting and starting, and that we would just be, and that they would just do that because they cared. So they would
Because
just, because they would just benefit society, because like we all have to have society, and they had the means, and this.
Well,
and
things have changed.
things have changed.
And as I think about this, one of the things that I think of is we have had the reaction to Marx has been an examination of capitalism, not the introduction of capitalism, but the examination of it. And in the examination, we have come to a point where a lot of capitalists, and this is built into the business plans of a lot of businesses, they are driven by income, profit, and growth only. So ethics and morality don't fit in.
No,
In fact,
because that is not going to make the money.
Yeah.
And also, it's not something that their shareholders are valuing, right? It's like impact, value is the world I live in of there's got to be a reason for people to want to do something good, right? They have to find their.
And yet, every time I think about this, was it Seneca, the general who was called off to the war, and he fought the war and he won, and then he went back home and returned to his plow? It's a guy in ancient Rome, in the period of the Roman Republic. The system that we've got values money.
Yeah.
It doesn't value ethics. It doesn't value aesthetics. It doesn't, well, it does, but it doesn't place that value high enough. And I think it's wrong.
Yep.
So I think we have to go someplace else. Anyway, there we go.
Well, yeah, here's one.
Okay, we have a picture of Hurricane Helene. And this is...
Yeah.
Hurricane Helene made landfall a week ago today, and this is from ABC News, and it's several days after. The title is Hurricane Helene by the numbers. Catastrophic destruction covers 400 miles. Other articles say 500 miles. After the landfall in Florida's Big Bend region as a Category 4 hurricane, 140 mile an hour winds, I think that would blow me over.
Oh yeah, that's like Rocky Flats.
It's like what?
It's like a nuclear. It's like
Yeah.
It's like Rocky Flats, or
Yeah.
any other place where these wind they're such a
Yeah.
wind. Yeah.
Helene caused ruinous storm surge, wind damage, and inland flooding across wide areas of the South. Helene was the strongest hurricane on record to make landfall in the Big Bend region. Now, the Big Bend region, if you have the peninsula of Florida, and then I'm going to do this from the point of view of the reader or the viewer, you have that panhandle that goes off, and the Big Bend is the place where they join. Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Asheville, North Carolina was hit super hard, and it's in the Appalachians. It's not near the sea. It's like we got hit by the storm after Hurricane Irene, which we call Hurricane Irene, but it was actually Tropical Storm Irene. We got hit in Vermont really hard, much harder than New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts.
Right. It was a switch. It was in New York. It was the Sandy. Right.
Yeah.
Sandy was very bad there, but not up here.
Here, and I'm seeing these storms are doing damage well inland.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've been asked to write is an article about how there is no such thing as being in a place where you are exempt from climate change.
Absolutely.
Asheville, North Carolina was advertising itself as a great place if you're worried about climate change. So these people moved there from Phoenix, and they moved there from California, and they moved there because they were afraid of wildfires in Colorado. And what happens? Okay. Now we're behind again. Okay.
And I could say more about that. I could say so much about that, but we can also move for time.
Well, our next item is from Clean Technica.
Oh.
Do you see what's weird about this picture?
I used to live in Barcelona.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. That's really cool.
Are you familiar with this? I saw this and I thought, what is going on there? That train is in a station and it's stopped on a staircase.
That's also D.C., Washington, D.C. I grew up in Washington, D.C. That's how our trains come in. They have these blinking lights on the side, and then they're going in. Other people who did not grow up with that are just sort of surprised when it happens. So
I worked in D.C. for a year.
So you know all about those.
The subways had me completely blown away. I couldn't figure them out for about a week.
Yeah.
Okay, Barcelona is using regenerative braking to power subways and EV chargers. Each year in Barcelona, people make 440 million trips on the subway system. Every time a subway train stops, the energy generated in the regenerative braking is turned into electricity, which gets fed through inverters and distributed in the subway system. So there you have it.
Yeah, that's lovely.
We are way behind, so I have to keep going forward.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
Whoops. And
we're back to China.
This is Wednesday, October 2nd. We're back to China, and this is the thing that I was talking about earlier, that those wind turbines are not in China, I don't think. They could be, but China's a big country, and it's got lots of different land. This is from the Caledonian Record, which is at the other end of Vermont. China drives record growth in renewable energy jobs. A record 2.5 million jobs were created in renewable energy in 2023. The International Renewable Energy Agency and International Labor Organization said. Nearly 2/3 of the world's solar and wind power installations were in China.
Yeah.
Which got 1,840,000 of the jobs. So why doesn't the United States get jobs like that?
Yeah.
And the answer is because of two things. One of which was our renewable energy was set back amazingly by Donald Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
The other thing is our fossil fuels industry and other industries related to it have got a stranglehold on that still exists.
Yeah. They have a string. Yeah. What? It's. I mean, it's so harsh, and yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep going because we are almost through our time. This
Wow. Okay.
next item is from CNN. That's the Matterhorn, in case you don't know it. Italy and Switzerland have agreed to shift their border in the Alps. Alpine glaciers are melting. In fact, they lost 4% of their volume last year. Now that means if they keep going at the rate of melt that they've got,
That's a very quick.
they're gone in 25 years.
Right.
That means the border is changing because they mark the border between Switzerland and Italy. So the two countries have agreed to redefine their border in the area of the Matterhorn. People are still saying climate change isn't happening, and here we've got Switzerland and Italy changing their borders. What do you want to say?
Will. There's will.
Yeah. Okay, our last item is this picture, which I really like. Now, is her hair because she was out inspecting wind turbines all morning and she hasn't had a chance to get it straight since?
Or she's got very wavy hair.
Or she's got hair that is tousled on purpose.
As a person with thick hair, it does. It does what it does.
Yeah.
It does what it does.
Okay, this is from Renews. BOEM approves 2.8 gigawatt Atlantic Shores plan. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management has approved the Atlantic Shores South project plan to construct and operate 2 wind energy facilities with a capacity of 2,800 megawatts off the coast of New Jersey. This is the final decision needed for BOEM after the Interior Department's July 24 record of decision. And the reason why that woman is on the screen, she is the director of the BOEM. Her name is Elizabeth Klein. And I have seen a few pictures of her, and they all look like that. So now unless you have something to say on that, we should probably wrap things up.
No, I no.
Okay. We're wishing everybody to have a happily productive week. I change these things. At the end, I have a whatever day at the end of my blog.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I go through the ones for the week and pick one.
Can I wish a Happy New Year to the...
You can wish Happy New Year or anything else you want to call it.
Okay, well, Lashana Tova to all the Jews who care. Or want to.
Or want to.
Yeah.
Judaism, I had a boss once who had a son who was about 10 years old. And he came into my desk and chatted with me and said something about the Jews. And I said, I cannot imagine any group of people who could have influenced the world more than the Jews. It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And he had never heard anybody say that before. And
there was a time where thought, the intellectual Jewish thought was really, really big.
There have been a number of times in history. We have to shut down.
Yes, I know.
But one of the times was the entire history of Spain up to the time of Isabella and what was her husband's name?
I don't remember.
Ferdinand.
Right, yes.
And Isabella was a person who was rabidly religious, and she told everybody in Spain they either had to become Christian or leave.
Yep.
Which I think is not Christian to do.
No, no.
Anyway, goodbye everybody, and we hope you come back next time.